Hello, and welcome to Bio 161, Introduction to Cell and Molecular Biology. I'm your instructor, Dr. Mallory Greenlee Walker. You should watch today's introductory video, but usually you'll be given the option to either do reading and or watch pre-recorded mini lectures as a way to prepare for class. In today's first video, I'm going to explain why we're studying cell and molecular biology. The approach we will take in understanding cell molecular biology, or the way and order I'll present the content. I'm then going to explain the teaching mechanism that I'm going to use to present the material to you, and I'll end by giving you a tour of our Canvas page. So, what does a California redwood tree, a baby, and a bacterial pathogen have in common? This is not a bad joke. You may be thinking nothing, but in fact, these are all living things. And because they are living things, that means that they are made up of cells, or in the case of a bacterial pathogen, made up of a single cell. Cells are the basic unit of life, and they can acquire energy, communicate, reproduce or divide, respond to external stimuli, and over many generations, they can evolve. And at the level of a single cell, we're going to look at, in this class, how these processes occur normally and how they might be disrupted in disease. So as you learn more about the components of a cell or processes in a cell, you'll be able to take future coursework that will extend this knowledge to modern applications, including something like nutrition. And so in this class, we're going to look at how cells metabolize carbohydrates in a process called cellular respiration. And they use these carbohydrates to make energy. We'll also look at, for example, how plants harvest energy from the sun to make plant carbohydrates. And these cellular processes are key aspects of nutrition and might be perturbed in malnutrition and obesity. Other modern applications include things like vaccines and infectious disease. This is something that my research is interested in. Food science, the creation of genetically modified food, as well as food insecurity. You might also be interested in forensics and how it's applied to criminal justice. You might be really interested in biomedical engineering and biotechnology. Maybe you're a biomed major. Maybe you're interested in stem cell transplantation, cancer, fertility, or infertility. So there hopefully is something in this list that interests you and can motivate you to stay excited about this topic throughout the quarter, no matter what your major is. So the next thing I want to describe is how we'll cover the content in this class, or the order in which we'll cover content. And so we're going to begin as the book does, which is to take an interdisciplinary look at the macromolecules, really at this submicroscopic level. And when I say macromolecules, I'm referring to proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, and lipids. And when we look at these macromolecules, we're going to be applying chemical principles to analyze the behavior of these molecules in a cell. And we're particularly interested in bonds that form and how these macromolecules interact with water. We're also going to apply the principles of physics, particularly the principle of energy conservation and the laws of thermodynamics, to predict the behavior of molecules inside a cell, or the way in which molecules move in and out of the cell. And then finally, as we look at each one of these macromolecules, we're going to relate the structure of the macromolecule to its function. We're then going to move into the cell and analyze the functions of a cell. And so a lot of these functions are the traits of living things. So we're going to look at how cells acquire energy, either through the process of metabolism and then in plant cells through photosynthesis. We're also going to look at organelles. Organelles are unique to eukaryotic cells, and these are cells with a nuclei. And we're going to look at the specialized function of organelles. And then we're going to look at how some proteins move through organelles or move out of the cell. We'll also look at how cells are able to communicate with each other, as well as how cells reproduce and divide. We're going to move up from that microscopic level into traits that are visible to the naked eye. And we're going to consider how heritable genetic information gives rise to the diversity of life. And so when I'm talking about the diversity of life, I mean how living things are quite different from each other, like we just looked at. So the difference between a human and a koala versus a succulent. We're going to examine the chromosomal theory of inheritance and then end with looking at the central dogma. So how is this heritable genetic information converted into an intermediate, which is RNA, and then turned into a protein? And for the most part, proteins are what does the work inside a cell. So this is going to be kind of an overview, a big picture overview of how we're going to cover material in this class. And I'll come back to this diagram multiple times, or a simplified version of this diagram multiple times throughout the course, just to check in and give you the big picture of what we're working on. Okay, so next topic is the teaching mechanism in which I'm going to use to present the material. So one thing that we know as instructors is that we are preparing you to enter the workforce or to enter a professional program. And employers and professional programs are expecting non-science competencies on day one. So this is something I grabbed from the American Medical Association, and these are some traits that they're looking for in their students. So they want you to be able to have social skills, engage in teamwork, be good at communicating, are reliable, resilient, adaptable, and have a capacity for improvement. And so this suggests to me that we have to have practice at adapting to new situations and opportunities to engage in oral communication and in teamwork. And luckily our labs at Cal Poly help this, but we can do more in lecture. There are also a whole bunch of studies that shows that there are types of instruction that improve student engagement, improve and increase a higher level of learning, as well as improve retention in various majors. And so those instruction methods include things like increased course structure and things. So that means things like including materials to prepare in advance of class and having multiple quizzes throughout the class. Increased active learning. These are solving problems in lecture, in class, with an instructor. These help learning and retention. And then the use of varied teaching methodologies. So this might be using a case study one week and using modeling another week, and then using a chart to compare, or a Venn diagram to compare pathways the week after that. These same techniques in teaching can also reduce an achievement gap. And so an achievement gap just means not everybody may be starting in an introductory class on the same footing, and we want to make sure everybody gets to that same level. And so with this in mind, this is why I'm going to teach this class in this flipped format. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So here's how we're going to approach this class. So for every class, you're going to prepare. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this can be reading from the text and or watching these mini lectures. To help you with this material, you can also take notes, and there's two ways to take notes. There will be fill-in-the-blank PowerPoints available, or these note-taking guides, and you can see what works for you, or you can use your own note-taking method. And it's expected that you prepare between 2 and 3 hours for each class. After you watch or read, you're going to take a readiness test. And these are daily timed tests that are just going to test your recall and retrieval of information. And it's going to be largely focused on where those note-taking guides or the fill-in-the-blank questions or parts of the PowerPoint are guiding you to focus on that material. Your 2 lowest readiness tests can be dropped. And so this includes both excused and unexcused absences. And then once you're done with preparing, we're going to come to lecture. So we're switching from green to white. and we're going to do application. So we're going to apply the material. We may have some mini lectures to kind of get you into the topic and get you thinking about it again, but we're going to do a lot of applications. So these might be things like think, pair, share. We might do modeling. We're going to see a lot of different ways of the material being presented. As a way to wrap up, I'll always go over the answers to the activities, and then we're going to have a learning catalytics. So this is an online response system, and so I'll ask some questions. You can talk about it with your peers, and then answer these questions. A portion of these will be graded on correctness, and a portion will be graded on participation. And so you can do these in class and work with partners, or you can do these asynchronously or synchronously online. And then after lecture, we're going to have homework. You're going to have homework. This is going to be these dynamic study modules. So you'll be assigned 1 or 2 of these a week. We'll also have some practice tests. The goal of the practice test is to get you ready for exam style questions. And they should be taken alone. And we'll talk more about these all throughout the quarter. And then every once in a while, we're going to have these spot checks on the activity guide. So you'll turn in your notes from class and then they'll be returned to you. And this should take about 1 or 2 hours per class that you're practicing or studying the material. Okay, so this is how we're going to approach the class. I understand that this learning experience, especially at first, may feel a little bit bumpy. And this could be true for multiple reasons. 2 examples are here. So being presented with new situations can induce a cortisol spike, and this might make you feel stressed in class. Or the thought of discussing something with your peers may make you feel anxious. So I'm aware of this. And so here are some tips to overcome these challenges. Sleep and eat well. So come to class feeling good and having energy to do work and think. Also schedule time in your busy week to prepare adequately. So the content will be available usually a week before class, and so make sure you're scheduling that time to prepare. Organize your notes so that you can find information quickly in class if you haven't practiced your recall yet. So make sure you bring a laptop or a tablet where you can easily pull up those notes. When you're doing a problem and you're stuck, you've just been presented with a new problem, start with what you can recall about the topic. So if you're doing a problem about proteins, start by just recalling that proteins are made of amino acids. And then ask for help to break down the problem. So you can ask your peers, right? We're always going to be doing group work. You can ask your peers for help, or you can ask me. And so a way you might ask is, how did you start this? Or if you're at the end, how did you get that answer? And if you can't quite understand that, ask, can you explain it another way? And then ask questions in our wrap-up time during lecture, or follow up with me after class and during office hours. So we'll talk more about this as we go through these activities. I'll facilitate kind of other ways to solve a problem so that a lot of people can get and can hear different ways that they might solve a problem and kind of build a deeper understanding of this biology. Okay. So that's what I have to say about the class and the mechanism that I'm going to use to teach the class to you. And I now want to give you a brief tour of our Canvas page. So here is our Canvas page. And so we have this landing page here. You can read a little bit more and get to know me. I have my email here. My office hours are listed on this page. We have our syllabus. And a course schedule, so you can find out when homework and exam is due. This syllabus is required reading, so you're going to want to go ahead and read this. You will learn more about the different assessments that we're going to have in the class and where there's some grace in those assessments. Some of them, like the learning catalytics, some percentage of them will be dropped, and same for the quizzes. The next thing I want to show you here, so this is under modules, and so you have all this great stuff to read about class policies, there's also all this extra resource information. So if you click on the class format, you can read and get more information about how this class will be taught. I also have some really useful information on class accessibility. My goal is to make this course accessible to all participants. But if you're having a hard time kind of concentrating, I have some tips in here. But do stay in touch with me and let me know if you need extra help, if something's not accessible in our materials. Anyway, and then I have some student services and basic needs. So that might all be good for you to look over. But what I really want to call your attention to is these modules. So every week we're going to have these modules. So here's week 0. We're starting a day early this quarter. And so we just have one day here. And so this is where you'll find all the information that you'll need to prepare for class. And then this is where all the homework will be. So you can see this week we have 3 dynamic study modules that are due. These will always be due Monday following our lectures. Okay, so let's click on this day 1 material. So here we are. And this has a description of what you should do before class and what you should do after class. So here we have our required reading. So again, you can either do the required reading, the syllabus is actually required, or you can choose to watch the videos. And so I'm going to strongly recommend everyone watch the video 1 today, the introduction. And these will all be posted on YouTube, so you can just click to there. For each of these, there are different note-taking guides, so you can really use either of these note-taking guides if you prefer, or your own note-taking method if you prefer. So let's just open up this note-taking guide here. So this kind of moves along with the reading. And so, for example, here, if I downloaded this, what are some fundamental characteristics of life, right? So I could type in cells divide, they communicate, they evolve, and the other characteristics of life, I would just type right into this Word doc. Okay, so that's one way. I went all the way out. And then here, this should download it'll be both in PDF and PowerPoint, but this is a fill in the blank. So if you're watching these slides here, you can just write in or fill in the blank with what the traits of life are. Okay, so just different ways. You may choose whichever way works for you. These are just tools. Okay. Here is where you'll take the daily quiz, and so this will be posted early, and it's always due before the start of class. So day 1, we have a quiz, it's due. Complete the quiz on your own and do not discuss the answers with other students. The answers on the quiz will not be posted. For the most part, if there are big discrepancies, we will go over those answers in class. And the reason they won't be posted is that they're basic recall questions, and so they're not really good study materials. And you should not take screen captures either, because they are quiz materials. So again, do them on their own, do not screen capture, and we will go over the answers, especially if the questions were, ranging in responses. Okay. And then finally, before class, this is where you'll find your activity guide. And you'll want to either download this if you have a tablet and can easily take notes on it, or you want to type in your answers. You will have to do a little bit of drawing. So again, either having a tablet or printing this will be what you want to do. And every once in a while, these will be collected randomly for points. And so here's an example of what that activity guide would look like. So these are the activities we're working on. We'll use this form in lecture. There's nothing for you to do before class except to download it and or print it, just depending on how you're able to take notes. Okay. So those are the main things to point out. If we have mini lectures in class, or I think that there's a helpful animation or a helpful way to study, so active studying suggestions, you'll find them listed below this chart here. So that's all I have for this video. I know it was a little bit long. Thanks for bearing with me. And I hope you watch the next videos and or do the reading, and I look forward to meeting everyone in class. Thanks, bye.